Good evening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the lovely elevator music while you all were coming in. As you already noted, this meeting will be recorded. My name is Stephanie Simeon. I get the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Fruitbelt Community Land Trust. Today, I will be joined behind the scenes by Jamila Covington, and also you will see as our moderator, we have our Vice President, Brandy Barrett. Today's meeting is a really good one. We're going to talk about development today. So I don't know if I have control over the slide, but next slide. So as you can see, we have a really full agenda. And then I hope all of you can stay on towards the end because we have some updates about where we are with our mobile market and also some of the work that has already been started in our owner-occupied opt-in rehab. For those of you who live in the area, you should be seeing our little lawn signs being put up shortly if you haven't already. So just some gentle reminders. Try to keep yourself on mute. And then when it's time for you to start talking, you can unmute yourself and then say what you need to say, or you can add any questions into the chat. Brandy does an amazing job at making sure that we try to get all the questions we can answered um, as best as we can. So without further ado, today we wanted to talk about creating a development strategy. I think a lot of you understand the mission of the Fruitbelt Community Land Trust, where we want to do development without displacement. A little bit later on in our presentation, well, our meeting today, we will be bringing on Tom and I think Davida Alexander from Oxford Consulting may be joining us a little bit later as well to talk about this Stell's style of development. And we'll be looking at maybe some pictures and such of some uh, completed projects that they have done in the past. So there are three types of development approaches. One is grassroots. So this is the one that's directly from the community. And it doesn't develop anywhere else than from the bottom up. Um, this is the community coming to you saying, these are our needs. This is neighbors talking to neighbors. And this is pretty much how block clubs got started. You know, there was a problem. The block club said, what are we going to do? We're going to unite together. And how are we going to address these problems? What came out of that, and many of you who are on the call today know that that's how the land trust got started. It was a grassroots movement. The community knew, they already saw what was coming down the pipeline. They wanted to be ready. They wanted to make sure that they had a voice. They wanted to be empowered, and they wanted to be able to come together through the land trust to make sure that we would be able to do development, but in a way that none of our residents in the fruit belt would be displaced. Another way of doing development is a top-down approach. So typically what that is, you know, you're having one of these meetings, you're an organization, typically sometimes a for-profit. You are saying, okay, what are we looking at for the next year? Let's look at the pipeline. What do we want to do? And so let's just do housing, or let's just work on the built environment. In many cases, that development approach is more prominent than we know. I mean, I think we all have experienced things just popping up out of nowhere, and you have no control or not even aware of how it got there and what the process was. So that approach happens a lot. Um, and many of you who are on this call have been on the other end of that. I myself have been on the other end of that as well. And we want to make sure that we're talking about these development approaches so that everyone is aware of them, so that you can know how you can make sure that you have a voice in either form of development approach. Then there's the joint venture, which is usually you would see this done with a not-for-profit that um, they have the passion, they have the commitment of the community, they know what needs to get done, but they may lack capacity, meaning that they may not have enough staff to see a project all the way through. They may not have the financial resources. They may not have been incorporated long enough to show that they've been good stewards of dollars. And so it may be really hard for them to go out on their own to do something. So usually what a joint venture is, you will have that passionate organization. Usually they have a little bit of the grassroots approach. They know what the community needs, but then they partner with a more established developer that has the financial resources to see a project through from beginning to end, that has credibility in the community, that has a track record, and has all the things needed for them to be able to get, the $1 million that are needed to get this a project done. So those are the types of development, those are the kind of development strategies that are out there. The main question for us, as we're talking to all of you tonight, is what is the Fruitbelt Community Land Trust preferred approach? And ours is grassroots. We want to be able to meet the need. We want to be able to take the temperature of the community. And then we want to make sure that we have an empowered board of directors and governance to make sure that if we can meet the need, do we have the capacity? How are we going to be able to take on a project to meet the needs? And also you have to ask that tough question of, are we the ones to do it? So I would say our approach is a little bit of both grassroots and joint venture, because everything that happens at our board level always involves the community, and we are a membership organization, meaning that we wouldn't do a top-down approach. Even if we had an idea that we wanted to do something, we always would test it out with the community, and having more than 50% of our board being representative of the communities that we serve, you always have that buy-in. You will always have that community buy-in, and that's what makes it so easy to work with the Community Land Trust, because it is community first. Next slide. So I have talked quickly about our approach. And so we just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of, we're going to have our folks from STEL talk in a little bit, but we just want to have this as an open discussion. I wanted to begin with telling you why we're having them on our town hall, and why we're introducing them to you in this format. One, because I think we all need to be aware of other organizations that are out there. Again, the Land Trust is not the silver bullet. We do not have all the answers. We do have the pulse of the community. We know we need to do development without displacement. And we want to make sure that if we are doing it, maybe our first venture is not it's not solely on the backs of the Land Trust. We have been really successful in bringing in national dollars, but a lot of them are for pilot projects. So one of those pilot projects is a joint venture with Habitat for Humanity, where we're bringing in home ownership. And one of the other things that we wanted to do to meet the need of the community is to fill in some of the vacant lots with multifamily housing. So with that, I will turn it over to Tom. I can't see very well on my view, but he's going to go through what they do. And just for folks that we've been calling it STEL, STEL stands for Southern Tier Environments for Living. They are also a nonprofit, just like we are, but they have a little bit more, I shouldn't say a little bit, they have a lot more affordable housing development experience, and they also provide some programming and services that they're going to talk about what they provide, so that we can all get better acquainted with each other. So Tom, wherever you are free to hop in here.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie.
Good, I can see you. It's bad when you're, well, in this view, you don't really get to see all the stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for the introduction.
Absolutely.
Yep. I'm Tom Whitney. I'm the Executive Director of Southern Tier Environments for Living. I've been at Stell for 30 years, and we've been doing development for 25. I've been the Executive Director for 25 years also, and we've been doing housing development for the 25 years. When I took over, we had a lot of, we rented from a lot of landlords that didn't really take care of the properties. We had a lot of deferred maintenance that they didn't really do a very good job of maintaining for us. So we started looking at alternative types of funding so that we could build our own or develop our own properties, and then we could control the quality. So we looked at HUD funding, we looked at tax credits, we looked at some money from the state. It's always nice to get money from the state, but that was few and far between. We're located, our main office is in Dunkirk, New York, but we cover Erie County, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Allegheny counties. So it always seemed like the money ran out when we got to about, Hamburg. We never really got too much money coming down this way. So we started developing tax credits properties 25 years ago, and it really worked out well for us. We could control the construction. You have to apply for it. So we'd apply for it, and sometimes it would take a year, sometimes it would take 2 years to get the application approved. It's very competitive, but over the years we've developed about 750 units of housing and probably done 21, 22 projects. We started doing them for ourselves, and it was great. When we had people were moving in, they'd say, this is the nicest housing they've ever been in, and it's gratifying. We're a very mission-based organization. I really enjoy that part, helping people and having people really appreciate what everybody's collectively working towards. After we did it for 4 or 5 years, the state came to us and said, hey, look at, instead of us funding a whole project ourselves with other types of funding, can you work with another not-for-profit, and then the tax credits would account for anywhere between 30 and 70% of a project cost. So the state, instead of doing, one project for $10 million, could put in, can do, 3 projects for $10 million. So we started partnering with other agencies. We did the project or we've done projects in Rochester, in Ithaca, on Long Island, in Brooklyn. So we've developed all across New York State as well as in our catchment area. Let's see, geez, it was 2020, early 2020, I believe. Somebody put us in touch with,
or COVID.
Yes, right, exactly.
That's how I remember things now.
Time flies. We were put in touch with the Fruitvale Community Land Trust, and we love what you guys have done, or what your mission is, and we're actually doing a project very similar in Dunkirk. So if anybody wants to get down and take a look at it, I'll give you the 50-cent tour. We're doing a scattered site development that we're just finishing up right now, with using tax credits. It's 49 units. So we've got some single family homes here, some duplexes, some triples. Yep, thank you. That's a couple of the units that's a 4-plex right now that we're actually they're renting up this week.
Tom, you want to walk us through that one a little bit? Because you got a little bit of time. So this is, when you say it's a duplex, it's 2 is up and down.
This is actually 4 units. So I just took pictures of there's the 2 middle ones, which are 715B and 715C. And then in the picture to the right, you can see the 715A. So this was actually, we ended up buying 3 parcels of land right next to each other, tearing them all down, and then building 4 units in its stead. So these are all 4-bedroom apartments. As like you said, you walk in and there's living room, dining room, kitchen on the first floor, laundry. We want everybody to have a laundry where possible. We provide the laundry appliances as well as the hookups for a 4-bedroom or for the apartments. They also have a dishwasher, and then also there we go. Yep, there's the kitchen, kitchen, laundry facility. And then you got a bedroom up at the top and a living room down on the lower right side.
Mhm.
And we try to make it so that it's with quality materials too, so that's gonna last, you know, because we're putting tenants in there and it's permanent housing. So we want
Right.
people to be able to live there and, you know, really enjoy where they're living. And we want it
Absolutely.
to be built with quality materials.
And are these income based?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So um, depending, we've got when you put in the tax credit application, you can put in different types of income bands and you get different points. So it can be
Mhm.
up to 60% of area median income. And we typically have some that are at 30%, some that are 50%, and some that are 60% of area median income. So we can score a little bit better by doing that. And then,
Right.
thank you, that's great. So the 430, the one on the left side there is handicapped accessible. It's a 1-bedroom, 100% handicapped accessible unit. The person is in a wheelchair, so it's nice to have all the amenities that she would
Absolutely.
need. The second house is a single family home. That's a 3-bedroom house. The third is also a 3-bedroom home. And I can't see, oh, the other one is a 3-bedroom handicapped accessible as well.
Mhm.
That's, you know, when you build handicapped accessible, you don't know what you're going to have, whether it's going to be a veteran who's, you know, maybe lost a limb, or somebody who's geriatric, who's, you know, in a wheelchair or something. The 3-bedroom unit we have, it's a nice story. A family, there's a daughter who's 13 years old, will never be able to walk. And they were just so happy. There's actually a write-up in the Dunkirk paper when they got in, because they were just they felt so blessed to have 100% handicapped accessible house. He said, the father said that he was having to carry his 13-year-old daughter up the stairs to get into the house, and then her bedroom was upstairs, so he had to carry her up every night. And
Wow.
13, she's getting bigger, she's getting
Yeah.
older. So he
Right.
was so happy, you know, to be able to wheel her into the bathroom and have her brush her teeth there. And, you know, just, it was just a really wonderful story. So
And was this on spec, or did you already have the buyers in mind, or is it rent to own?
yeah, so good question. So you have to have a certain percentage of them handicapped accessible. So
Mm,
that's what we did. We designed them, and we thought, well, we'll do a 1-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, and then, you know, you try and fill them once they're built. So you know, we made it available. We talked to the Veterans Administration and all different handicapped. There's a Chautauqua County uh, agency down here that works with physically handicapped individuals, and we let them know in the county. And so we cast the net and to see who would work out. And so we ended up getting some quality candidates there.
that's great. And then oh, I see more here. These are the duplexes you were talking about.
Mhm. Yep. So the one on the left, that was
The
a
red,
rundown,
the red
dilapidated
one.
house that
Mm-hmm.
we ended up buying, the red one with the 2 porches.
Mm-hmm.
And we had considered, if you look at all these, what I didn't want to have was just like the same model, you know, so you drive through the town and say, oh, that's one, that's one, that's one. I wanted them all to have character and all to be unique and to blend in with the character of the neighborhood. So the one that has the 2 porches up and lower, that was a house that was very similar to what we ended up building. So we thought about rehabbing it, but once we started getting into it, there was somewhere over the history of the house, it had caught on fire. So there was burned embers or burned beams in the house. So once we took the drywall off, I mean, you were going to have to deconstruct most of the house in order to rebuild it, and then you're rebuilding it on old foundation. So anyway, we had the architects design a plan to basically mimic the house that we took down, so that it's still there. And it's down by the water, so it's got the 2 porches, which is nice. People can sit on the porch and look out over the water and things. The next house, that's also a duplex. So this one is on a very long, narrow lot. So there's access to the front is one apartment, and then you go around to the back and there's a second apartment back there. The third one is another duplex. And so we did a left and right side duplex. And the third one, or the fourth one, I believe is the same way, where it's got an entrance on the front and an entrance on the back. So, we were happy to work with, the Fruitvale Community Land Trust and, to say, hey, what would you like? We can put, different accents, or, you can see that we've got different materials on the front, porches, some little stone, or, different things to blend in with the neighborhood, so that, I like that. I like to, make sure
Right.
it fits in the neighborhood streetscape.
And we have at the Land Trust, we do have various architectural designs we've put on the website, and then we have Preservation Buffalo Niagara that is going to try to make sure that we get those designs more finalized, so that if folks are looking to do development in the area, that they can put in some of those unique details that are unique to the fruit belts. So I think these are all the photos that we have for you. And if you let me know, that we can start some of the questions and answers from the audience.
Okay. Couple things before I get into that. I just want to say we've worked with SWBR Architects. They're out of Rochester. They're highly respected by HCR to put in this plan, what we were planning on doing. And GPI, which is an engineering firm, and we've gone through and done environmental testing on all the sites. We've done soil borings to know what kind of soils there, what kind of foundations we're going to have. And I was just talking to actually the third picture there. The woman came out when I was taking a picture, and I just asked her, because she had moved in a couple weeks ago. I said, how do you like the apartment? And she said, I love it. This is great. Are you building more? And I said, well, we have one unit left that we're building, and then we're done. So, but it has been very well received. So I'm very pleased.
Yeah,
So,
I can definitely
yeah, I
tell.
guess I can answer questions if anybody has any.
So we will have Brandy, you're on. I think. Uh-oh. I guess so. I don't know. Is Brandy on? I don't know. I thought I saw her. If not, I can try to get through. If not, Jamila, could you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so I see the Fruitvale has been very active. One second.
Uh-oh. You gotta echo.
The Fruitvale has been very active in documenting its history. Did Stell read the cultural resource survey that was contracted from Preservation Studios?
I'm not familiar with that, but nothing is cast in stone. So as far as the facades are concerned, we can certainly change the streetscapes to whatever would blend in, so that, we've gotten some designs, but again, nothing is cast in stone, nothing that couldn't be changed.
Okay, and then did Stell consult the architectural styles in the FB brochure funded through the competitive BNMC grant?
I apologize, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Did Stell consult the architectural styles in the FB brochure funded through a competitive BNMC grant?
So that's the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus.
No, somebody put us in touch with the Fruitvale Community Land Trust. I worked with India Walton at the time, Zaid, and a couple other board members. And so, we sat down and we said, we showed what we could do. Actually, some of the board came down a couple of years ago when we were under construction pre-COVID, and walked through the sites that we were building in Dunkirk. And we said we could do similar to what we're doing here up in the Fruit Belt. And we got two builders, one that's very skilled at doing scattered site housing, and we've got another one that would be very skilled at doing apartment building. And so we didn't go through an RFP or anything. We just were put in touch together and worked collaboratively.
Perfect. I see Brandy has come back. So Brandy, are you going to take it from here?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Had an internet issue. The next question is for Amy Halt. What's the best way for people to give feedback on design or other aspects related to the project?
That's a good question. So, what we can have a meeting with the architect and, he would be the best person to give the feedback to, and he can say, okay, well, what about this? What about that? He's very skilled at doing this. And like I said, you can see, we wanted to have a bunch of different houses and different looks so that people didn't just drive by and see all of them that looked alike. So, we're very receptive, and we'll be very happy to work with yourselves to come up with the looks of the houses. I mean, that's the most important for you people, for you guys for everybody to decide. We don't have to really decide that.
Okay. And the next question comes from Ms. Veronica Nichols. Before the COT agreed to partner with STEL, did they have any community meetings to inform the residents of their plan?
Tom, that's not going to be for you. That's going to be for one of our board members. Unless you already know that answer, you can feel free to answer.
They having community meetings to inform the residents. Well, we did have a couple community meetings prior to this, so we have tried to keep the community in the loop. So, but it was during COVID and everything, so I know it probably, I don't know if how well received it was or how many people knew about it and things. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tom, I guess as a follow-up to that question, because you said some of the pre-planning or the pre-development started when our previous executive director, India Walton, was on staff. So that was well prior to pre-COVID. So do you remember any community engagement meetings prior to India leaving the organization?
Honestly, I can't recall exactly when if we had any or when we had them. I apologize, but I don't think we had anything face to face at that point. So we probably didn't.
Okay. And there was a question that I might have been missed prior, and I apologize if you already answered it. But was there an RFP from the Fruitvale Community Land Trust that was put out?
No.
Okay.
We were, somebody had put our two groups together and looked like we provided what you needed and you provide what we needed. So it seemed like a very good marriage.
And just to interject there, sometimes the New York State Homes and Community Renewal will figure out that there are some groups that are short on capacity, and then they might have recently funded a successful project and said, hey, why don't you partner with this group? So you might see that recently a project that I did a joint venture with Pastor Jones at Mount Aaron Manor, that was just 10 units of senior housing. And then for him to do the 67 units he's doing now, he partnered with a much larger scale development firm. So sometimes they will sort of do that matchmaker depending on the scale of development you want to take on. Mm-hmm. So probably they figured if you want to do scale that looks more residential, like the photos that we're seeing here, STEL is another person that they have funded in the past. They probably had an experience with them and figured that might be a good match. Is that the best way to sort of match things up? The state does it all the time. So, and they're not here to defend themselves, but I did want to share that.
And the hard part, and as Stephanie, you and I were talking about prior, in years past, a lot of architects would do plans, engineers would do plans on spec, but they don't do that any longer. So, STEL has literally out of pocket about $135,000 on getting the plans, doing the environmental testing, doing the site surveying, all these you know, all the architectural plans for all the different sites. So we've got a lot of money invested in this to this point. So the only way you get it recouped is to go ahead and get a successful project funded.
So another question that we have here from Lorna Peterson is she asked, can someone help me understand where the FBCLT is in the process? My understanding is that the City Planning Board has tabled the plan. Since there is no RFP that put forth a vision, did the FBCLT board and did the FBCLT board in representing the stakeholders approve Stell's project?
Well, yeah,
Oh, no,
I mean,
go ahead, Tom.
well, from my perspective, I thought it was approved because I was working with India very closely and Zaid and a couple other board members. So, you know, we have a developer services agreement signed. So I thought that, you know, that the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust Board was on board with everything that we were doing. So I thought that, you know, this was something that would be beneficial and everybody liked it. So I thought that we were, it was approved.
And to Lorna's point, the way that it was set up and the way that it's been presented to both Tom and I are sort of getting caught up on the same thing is that Stell would be the predominant lead, but it would be sort of set up as a co-developer. The land trust would be a co-developer because this would be our first ever venture for multifamily housing and a project of this scale. So that was one of the pieces. The other piece is that our portion was to secure site control because it is very hard to submit an application for funding without showing that you have site control. So I think being the land trust and we want to be good stewards of the land that we have, we wanted to make sure that that was our piece of the pie. In terms of where we are, the organization as a whole, it is being things of the approvals at the public approvals have been put on hold because the project has not been submitted for funding. And so once the project is considered shovel ready, meaning that all designs are final, everything has been done, they've done their due diligence for community engagement. Most likely they will then go before Common Council, zoning, planning to get those public approvals so that they can submit an application for funding. I know that Davida, if she's still on the call, can you please correct me if I misspoke at any point regarding when they're hoping to submit an application for funding?
So I don't know that I was listening correctly, but from what I understand, the land trust and you know, the land trust as the, I guess, project sponsor, it sounds like there may be some disconnect internally about communication, but you know, from what I understand, the plan, as they envisioned it, was to secure site control and to apply for funding in 2021. In order for your application to be as strong as possible, it's important to have all of your public approvals, mainly because you're competing against other projects. So all things equal, if the competition has their zoning approval and their planning approval and you don't, then the competition is going to score better.
And actually, we do have zoning approval. And so we went through the first planning board meeting and then we tabled it. We said, we'll hold off until we come to an agreement with the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust. So we're all on the same page going forward. But it seemed like we were fairly close to having both zoning, which is already approved, and then planning board approval. So, you know, that would be a big feather in our cap to apply in the fall. That's all taken care of. That would give us a better score when we put the application in. So that's excellent.
I have a
Davida, you were going to
question.
say something?
We
No,
have
I'm sorry.
Ronnie has a question.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Ronnie.
No, you're okay. We were both talking at the same time. Okay, so what I would like to know, when it comes to the CLT board,
Mhm.
was there an official vote, okay, to approve the partnership with Stell? And if so, are the minutes available to the membership?
So Tom, you don't have to answer that one. That's a seat. I'm in a hot seat. So the question is, did the board of directors have a vote to enter into an agreement with Stell to do this development? Is that correct?
Yeah, but it was prior to you though, before you came on. So this is really a question for the board members.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm out the hot seat then.
Yes, ma'am.
And someone prior to me, if they feel comfortable answering that question, that'd be greatly appreciated.
I think we have Zaid, our board president, on the line, as well as Robert Noor, our board secretary, who takes minutes for the board. So I think he or Zaid should be able to confirm the information.
This is Bob. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay,
Thumbs
good.
up.
Yes, there were a couple resolutions. The minutes, as far as I know, are generally publicly available. We actually met with Stell as a board. They presented the program. We've actually, as a board, have a resolution approving the selection of the architect and the contractors. I'm sure we can make that available for people.
Thank you.
We have another question in the chat from Lorna. The Fruit Belt advocated for no demolition, even put forth a moratorium on demolitions that was legislated by the Common Council. Even though that moratorium was lifted, it does not mean that bulldozing can happen willy-nilly. All requests for demo must go through, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling too fast, must go through the City Preservation Board. Historic preservation is important to the city of Buffalo and certainly to the Fruit Belt community. What is your stance on historic preservation? What does Stell understand about historic preservation?
Actually, I love historic preservation. I'd call myself a column hugger because I really enjoy preserving historic buildings. So our administrative offices are historic building in Dunkirk. We've taken a number of historic buildings and renovated them and given them a second use. We did the Evergreen Lofts building, which was a former warehouse in Buffalo there off of on Cherry. And that turned out wonderful. I mean, I'm sure I'm biased, but I think it turned out really nice. We've got some the old display cases we preserved. There was a trunk manufacturing facility originally, so we kept a lot of the historic aspects to the building. There's some exposed brick in there that really looks nice. We've kept the original boardroom. SHPO, State Historic Preservation Organization, requested, because there was a rarely used type of construction, they requested that we kept some of the beams and the fasteners and everything exposed. So we designed around the historic aspects of the building. So no, I love historic buildings. I have no problem keeping historic buildings. There's the building on High Street that, and again, we had a very good working relationship with the city of Buffalo. We asked for a number of sites and they actually gave us more. And this is one of the sites that they gave us because they wanted us to take it down and build on the site. So we aren't trying to, pull a fast one or tear down something that's historic. That was something that the city gave us so that we could take it down and then build on the site. We've got permission from State Historic Preservation Organization that we can take it down. So, but I agree with you. I love historic buildings and I would not want to take down something that's, has some historic character.
And that's on the public record that they have approved should the project move forward that the SHPO has approved the demolition of that. And also, in addition to that, all the work that's going to need to be done in terms of environmental justice around whatever remains and what's in the soil.
Right, right.
Right.
I have a question. Lorna has a final statement in here, but I have a question before we jump to that, because you brought up the Evergreen project. And just to go and circle back to the state funding. So I know the Evergreen Lofts, is that mixed with mental health residents for Evergreen? And is that going to be a big component for the state funding to do the 326 project?
So good question. So again, we worked with Evergreen Health Services. So we said we can work with whatever population. So they brought, they work with people who have HIV, who are HIV positive. So that building was actually for people who have HIV positive health history. So they brought the funding, and this was before like the eSHI money that came out now. So they brought their services to provide the support services for the people in that building. So it didn't have a mental health component. So when this all came about last year, we got the approval for the sites, I think in August, and from the city of Buffalo. So we knew what we could do. And the eSHI application was literally due a couple weeks later. So we said, you know, we didn't know of another partnering organization to provide eSHI services, but still could provide a mental health component. So we said, is this something you want us to do? It'll score better if we have eSHI beds and provide 30% of a different population, provide mental health services. So we all discussed it and said, yep, okay, why don't we do that? STEL can provide the services. That's in our catchment area. We applied for the eSHI beds. We got it. But Stephanie and I were talking, you know, if you have a different population and you have another not-for-profit or somebody who would like to provide services to that, that's fine. We don't have to provide the mental health services there. So if you have a different population that we want to get the eSHI beds that will qualify for getting us a higher score, we're amenable to that. That's fine.
Okay, because I was just concerned, you know, if that rested on state is qualifying for those state funds, because we do have a mental health residence very close to 326 high. So I wanted to know if that would be conflicting or kind of a hole in the application when applying for that state funding.
Yeah, you have to make that very clear, because the one thing they don't want to do is have an oversaturation of one population. And the other thing is they're going to say, if somebody else is already doing it, that doesn't make our application look really well. So we talked about having housing for young single moms facing housing insecurities, and working with the group Buffalo Perinatal Prenatal, who deals exclusively with homeless moms who are pregnant or have a child, and they have housing insecurities, meaning that they are couch surfing, they're staying with a friend, and we wanted to be able to make sure that we had could welcome them with stable homes. But that was just an idea of a way that we can meet the needs of our community that could be more consistent to what we're seeing, as opposed to what has traditionally been done before.
Thank you. And Lorna's statement says that she remains concerned that the question about the FBCOT board approving using STEL has not been clarified, that there was a board vote under the bylaws. The City of Buffalo Preservation Board makes the decision, not SHPO. If STEL truly loves historic preservation, STEL will rehab, redesign, renovate 236 high, or I think that's should it be 326 high? There is no reason to demolish the building.
Yeah, I mean, I think in order to get to we wanted to get to 50 units of housing.
Mhm.
So that was the model of demolishing 230 or 236 High Street. maybe we can get more sites from the city if we go and ask again. Maybe we can expand to get to 50 units by not demolishing 236, but I'm not, when I last talked to the architect, he didn't seem that it would be structurally sound in order to renovate it. But again, that would be a discussion for him.
And the one thing, again, I'm not taking sides, but I do know from working on certain budgets, you want to make sure that we're not putting so much into the rehab that it winds up on the back of our tenants. So what happens is if we put so much cost into the construction, we're going to have to be at the highest amount we can in low, in affordable rents. And that's that, you have to take that into consideration. And also, since we are hoping to do rent to own, we would really need to make sure that makes financial sense when it's time to transition to that. But again, I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying that we would have to make sure that we really look at what the engineer is seeing and what, because right now SHPO is saying that it does not have any historical significance unless something changed since the last time it was presented to the zoning board, which I think was in mid-January. But if there's something there, then obviously the only thing we can do is replace it in kind, and there would be no demolition at that point. So you're right about that, Lorna.
I unmuted my phone. I'm hoping you can hear me. It's Lorna Peterson.
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. And I really want to thank Mr. Whitney, that's the last name. Thank you, Tom, for answering our questions. SHPO does not make the decision. The decision is made by the City of Buffalo Preservation Board. That is who says what is, that's in the code. That is our city law that says what is historic and what is not. And so that would be going forward again. Certainly the Commissioner of Inspection and Permits would also be doing the demolition. There really is no reason to demo. And I just would like to make that clear. Again, on the economics of it, that's another issue. I understand it for the tenants. Frankly, I never care about a developer and their profits. And I know that Stell is nonprofit. I also want to say I still, and I am very concerned about this question, I don't know, was Stell selected by the board? The board represents the stakeholders, and I am a stakeholder. I'm a member of the land trust, and I'm also a taxpayer. I pay every kind of tax that there is: income, state, sales, and capital gains. And so this matters to me. This matters to me greatly. I care about the Fruit Belt, I care about the City of Buffalo, and I want to see the right things being done. And I don't know, as of yet, was there vetting by the Fruit Belt Land Trust Board in representing the residents of the Fruit Belt and the members of the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust?
Thanks, Lorna. And Tom, that's not a hot seat for you.
We don't expect that, but this is a serious question. Governance is very serious. And, to just be talking about nonprofit, blah, 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 and it's just money. Well, what was it? Some senator once said, $1 million here, $1 million there, and suddenly you're talking about real money. I mean, this is my money, and I want the right thing done, and I want it done in the right way. So I'm off the soapbox. Thank you for still smiling, Tom. One day you'll see me face to face. Thanks.
Thanks, Lorna.
We have no other questions or comments in the chat, so feel free to move forward.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave that to Jamila. Oh, she's the mistress of ceremony there.
Great, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Tom. And if there's any other questions that pop up that we could not answer that were related to Stell, we will make sure we email them to you, and so that you have time to respond.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Davida.
You're welcome. Good night.
So we will have, we did really good on time. So if there's things that were not answered, we'll be able to answer those towards the end. But before we wrap up, please do not end the call. We're still meeting. So we are still currently accepting new members, and we want to encourage folks to come in while we have the pricing where it is right now at I think it's $25. There will be some slight changes to things once we get past our next annual meeting, which will be on Saturday, July 24th. We are hoping to have as equally a great time as y'all did last year. And Brandy and others will be helping us make sure we get really good catering. Hopefully we have great weather so that we can breathe the air freely and safely and everybody can have a good time. And then we also wanted to give some updates about what's going on next, so things that you can see. I just gotta move this around so that I'm not, oh, that worked out perfect. So as you all know from our initial town hall meeting, that we'll be working with Massachusetts Avenue Project, or MAP. I know many of you would have liked for us to bring the mobile market back to the Moot Center, but that was not an option this year due to COVID. I am hoping that the Moot Center does get to be able to open back up, and for a lot of us use that as a community space. It's a major anchor in the Fruit Belt community. So definitely next year we will be looking forward to having that. So I believe we have one of our community partners here, Megan, who will share a little bit more about what we can expect for the Massachusetts Avenue Project and a partnership that we have with, I think, UB. And she can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Megan. Can everyone hear me all right? And then can everyone see the picture shared on the screen? Wonderful. Thank you so much. So like I said, my name is Megan. I'm currently the mobile market coordinator at the Massachusetts Avenue Project. So for anybody who doesn't know, the really quick synopsis, what we do is we're an urban farm and we work to bring our mobile market to communities that are impacted by food apartheid, meaning that they are systematically do not have access to fresh, affordable, healthy food, whether it is by transportation, by location, all of those kind of situations. So the Fruit Belt was selected as one of our partners after the application process, obviously a place that we really want to support and get into because of the community and how important it is. We are also partnering with the University of Buffalo, like Stephanie was saying. So University of Buffalo is doing a study. So the study is called the Veggie Van study. Essentially, they want to see, does the introduction of a mobile market increase public health? So not just how many pounds of food can you sell? That's a great number that we can get, but really understanding, is there an impact on public health in the community? So what we're going to be doing is 2 of our sites have been selected as Veggie Van sites. Fruit Belt is one, another one is the Boys and Girls Club. So that means that one site will get a market this year, and the other site for you all is a planning site. So what that means is that we are not going to have a physical market in the Fruit Belt yet. We're going to be essentially the control group and planning, preparing for next year to have a market. I think another part of the study that will continue forward in the future will be determining, does a year of planning, connecting with the community, understanding their wants, needs, restrictions, will that actually make a more impactful market? So I'm really excited to see that, but obviously, like I said, to do that, we need to hear from the community. So this is kind of a little flyer that I have up on here. The first step we have in our survey collection, data collection, is an interest form. So that QR code, and I'm actually going to see if I can drop into the chat. Let's see. Okay, so into the chat, I'm just going to drop the link as well in case anyone's looking for it. So this link will help us essentially have access, get some information from everybody about what are they looking for. So it's going to have everything from basic demographic questions to what's your favorite vegetable and how do you get to the market? How do you transport yourself? Do you walk? Do you drive, etc. Everyone can fill out these. Anybody in the community, we're going to be doing both virtual and paper collections of data. Right now, this is the virtual one. Right now, we're determining a good place for a drop-off location for those forms. We're looking to partner with the Moot Center so that they can collect all the forms. So we'll be collecting all this data, and then people who fill out this survey who are applicable for the study, meaning they live in the area, they are the primary food shopper for the family or for their household or whatever it may be. They have the chance to get up to $90 from participation in additional focus groups, phone calls, etc. In addition to that, we will also be working on community advisory boards, other planning committee groups, trying to get into the community and understand what people are looking for. So like I said, the very first step is filling out this survey. You have the link in the chat. This information is going to start getting out there. You'll start seeing it in social media. Those paper forms, like I said, we're going to be getting those out into the community. So if anybody has any specific smaller organizations, sub-organizations that you think would be great to pass these forms out to, please let me know. And we'd love to be able to get as many people involved as possible.
And Megan, I see something about cash.
Yes, so that was the $90. So anybody who participates in the study, I believe it's technically gift cards. But it's $90 for all the different events. So for example, most of the time when people get selected to be in the study, their first chance to earn $30 will be participating in like a pre-interest meeting. So that's like actually in person is what they've done in the past. It's been virtual recently, so I'm hoping they'll be able to do it in person again. They've actually done something where you can actually use this thing called, has a better name, but the layman's term name is a veggie meter. They actually look at your skin and you can see how much in fruits and vegetables have you been eating in the last like 24 hours or so. So it's actually like a quantitative data rather than just subjective background information. So they'll start with something like that. Just attending that.
Potatoes count?
Do what count?
Potatoes?
Ooh, I'm not exactly sure how potatoes would count. I'm not sure, like, it probably depends also on all of the different areas of it, but
Just
so
throwing it out there.
and then there'll be other phone calls throughout the year where they'll call you in, could be 6 months from now, and say, hi, tell me what you ate in the last 24 hours. So that's another way of seeing, hey, the idea is asking people now who don't have a market versus asking people in a year when they do have a market. Does that actually increase healthy food eating choices on the daily?
Thank you so much, Megan. We are so excited to be a part of this. We want to make sure that our folks get as much access to the foods and vegetables that they want. And we also want to make sure that people do not feel like they have to leave their community that they already trust and know to get their basic needs being met. Although the Land Trust is not a community center where we're able to like a human service agency where we're able to meet all the needs. We want to make sure that we partner to our weaknesses in areas that we don't cover. We're bringing in groups like Massachusetts Avenue Project that can work to their strength, and then by them doing what they're doing and partnering again with UB, we can make sure that we're trying to meet those needs wherever we can. So we do appreciate that.
Megan, I have one quick question. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ryan. Megan, I just have one question because you talk about food accessibility and kind of tracking people's needs. Does your organization support people signing up for food stamps or being able to accept food stamps at the mobile market?
So we do accept SNAP at our market. We have everything in the farmers market world and Fresh Connect. And so there's a lot of different services that we do accept at our market. We also have something else. So again, the goal is really to make food accessible. Right now, we're partnering with the Rich Family Foundation, something we have our All Access Pass. Essentially, our All Access Pass, when things like Double Up Food Bucks are not active, since that is only a mostly summer program in our area, we actually are able to provide 50% off of all fresh produce during the entire year because of that grant. And it is completely voluntary. It requires no, permission or qualification. All you do is just say, I would like to use my All Access Pass. It's essentially like our loyalty sign up. We usually get your email just so we can let you know what's coming up. But yeah, it's just a great way for us to be able to, without question, provide additional accessibility to our food.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, okay, with Massachusetts Avenue partnering with UB, and UB is notorious for studying the fruit belt like lab rats. So at any rate, what I want to know, okay, because the mobile market has been a great asset for the fruit belt, partnering with Mulberry and Friends Block Club. It changed. I'm not quite sure why it's changed, but I'm kind of disappointed in that. And then two, after I asked this question, I wanted to talk to Stephanie and Brandy about the MOOC Center. So anyway, to get to my question, what does it benefit UB to do these studies? Now, again, UB has been studying the fruit belt for, I'll say, at least 20 years for various reasons. So honestly, what are they getting out of doing these studies? And how does that impact at the end of the day? I mean, I heard what you were saying as far as, building out this food, excuse me, my brain's a noodle. I had to clock out of work late. So, but in order to build up in the food desert, okay, providing its services, what's going to be different with UB studying the fruit belt in regards to the food desert?
So good question. So part of the Veggie Van, that was actually our location's determination of which 2 sites would become Veggie Van sites. So we selected the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust and the Boys and Girls Club specifically because we were looking for new applicants in areas that we thought it would be beneficial in. And then those 2 locations were randomized. So University of Buffalo did not choose to study the fruit belt, and they did not choose to pick that location. But what the University of Buffalo is gaining, because this study that they're doing is actually not just them, it's a partnership between the University of Buffalo and a university in North Carolina whose name is escaping me right now. But what they're developing right now is a Veggie Van toolkit. So they're developing something to expand to all mobile markets across the US. And their study is all over. So they are doing studies in North Carolina, in Massachusetts, in all different locations, so that they can figure out what toolkit, what advice they can give to future organizations, smaller organizations that have or want to increase their reach of a mobile market. So already they have kind of that toolkit, but what they are using is the data that we're collecting is what activities are we doing? What food are we offering? The kind of stuff we talked about of the different activities and things like that. So they're going to be looking at what are we doing and how impactful it is to the community to take those best practices, put it in that toolkit and be able to disband that to other organizations.
Okay, and so how does measuring someone's veggie intake play into that?
Yeah. So what that is it's all about determining before and after. So they're going to look at that before and after and see, was there a change? Now, the idea would be that for our other partner, who is the experiment, essentially the site that actually has the market, we're going to want to see, hey, does our general audience have an increased amount of vegetable and fruit consumption after having a market? And the same thing with the fruit belt, with the people who we are entering into that study, we want to see, hey, just being there and having those conversations, is that increasing fruit and vegetable consumption? Or is there not a big change until we bring the market? So that's really what we're kind of looking at, is the change from start to finish.
And Ronnie, I've been having some meetings with the NFTA because we're trying to figure out, how to make sure we can make things way more accessible, because taking that 22 bus route out and then taking these things out and also having poor sidewalks and,
Mhm.
there's a lot that needs to be done, and we can't just keep saying, well, if we had a grocery store, well, is there demand, or do people just want to prefer going to where they've always been going, but they just need better access to get there? So they're not perfect. I'm a UB grad. We'll get there. But we
Forgive
want to
you.
we got to get there.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And thank you for bearing with me and my noodle brain. But just quickly, I'll say this and then I'll let you go. In regards to the Moot Center, I believe what we need to do, and that is to reach out to Ricardo Herrera, and then also the one under him, who is Sandra Redfern. They are very interested in the CLT.
Mhm.
And so we just need to make that happen. Okay, we can go ahead and find out exactly what's going on with the Moot Center and see what they can do in order to participate in this. Okay, and after that, I'm shutting my mouth.
Thank you. So Megan, is this your screen? Because I don't know. I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, I can stop
Okay.
sharing now. There you go. Yep.
So if I think that was the last portion that we wanted to present as to where we are with that. Again, I wanted to repeat that there will be, if I didn't say it, there will not be a June meeting. So the next time we'll be meeting would be when we're in the sun, having good food and connecting with one another on July 24th. We will make sure that everyone is fully aware when to start putting in your applications for the board stuff, because that's going to be voted for in person. If the board has any changes to the bylaws or anything, we'll make sure that everybody has enough of that information well in advance, so that we are using the month of June to do some serious planning. Oh, we got a hand up.
I just wanted to quickly mention the positions that are going to be available
Oh, okay,
for
sure.
nominations on the board, and that's board chair, board secretary, and board treasurer. So I just wanted to mention that very quickly.
Right. And then because we're a community land trust, we have a tripartite board, meaning that one portion of our board is for people who hold a ground lease. And by the time we do have a meeting, we will have I think maybe 2 homeowners that will be able to join the board, and so that we can have that, because they would be lease holders, or lessees, maybe. I don't really like that word. Anyway, we will do that. We're going to be using all of June to do as much planning as possible, making sure that we are getting folks invitations in. We're going to make sure that we get everything done and ready for the July meeting, and making sure that you guys are staying in communication with all our social media. I think we just put out a big invitation about CLTs, some trainings. We want to make sure that our board members and our membership are always aware of opportunities for them to learn more information. The more you know, the better you can vote, and you can make better decisions for you and your family. So does anyone have any last minute questions before we wrap up? Okay. Well, thank you for spending your evening with us. I hope you understood or learned a little bit about the development process that we would like to take. There is more to come. Right now, we are rocking and rolling with our owner-occupied opt-in program. And like I said, you should soon see our little lawn signs in. We're really excited about that. We're going to try to also do some storytelling around that, so that people can kind of get the idea of like what it is that we're trying to do, and help folks stay in these communities. These are beautiful homes They cost a lot to keep up, and we want to be able to remove that burden as much as we can. So we thank you. We will see you all again in person. And please stay attuned, pay attention to all the social media, our newsletters. Yes, Valerie, the annual meeting will start on time. We will make sure we started on time. We got more staff now, so we can make sure that all that's put in place. So thank you all. You have a wonderful evening, and we will see each other soon. Have a good night.